This here is the 2018 Audi Q5. It's actually a really cool color. We'll see here on the window sticker real quick, Navarra Blue. Very bright blue, pretty cool. This one actually has a tan interior, the Premium Plus package, navigation package, 20-inch wheels, Bang and Olufsen, cold weather, USB, stickers at $53,000. Now, interestingly enough, it gets really good fuel economy because it has a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, turbo, with 252 horsepower, 273 pound-foot of torque. Quattro, which is actually a new Quattro system I'm going to explain to you when I drive it. And then it also has a 7-speed S-tronic. And S-tronic means it's a dual clutch, just like the A4, the A3, and they used to have an S4. So this is basically a transmission that is like a manual. 2 clutches, 2 sets of gears, basically. First, third, fifth, second, fourth, sixth. Actually, there's a 7th gear as well. And it actually has some bite to it. It actually feels really solid. I'll give you a nice little rundown on this one because I like it. I like it a lot. Nice 20-inch wheels, very big. And you'll see we have a nice trim piece down here on the bottom. Actually, it gives it a good profile, right? Nice and bracketed. These door handles are really cool because they lift up. You'll see they lift up here. And then if we look at the back, as usual on a Q5, lots of space. I like the new details here, such as this LED lighting strip on both sides. We have nice elastic bands. This here releases the seats. So if I pull this, the seat goes forward. This, of course, is removable. And we have another LED light in here firing down. And you can put a warning triangle up in there if you wanted to. Of course, we have automatic close, but if you also use this trick, you just kick your foot and it closes on its own. So that's cool because if you have kids and if they have the key on them and they're getting something for soccer practice or something, they're not going to be able to reach that button up there. So all they have to do is kick their feet and it will open and close. Watch this. So I like that a lot. It makes it very user-friendly for everybody in the family, right? But these are just all the little improvements that they've done to this car. Obviously, it's a new design. They've got this great belt line going all the way down. If you're actually above the car, it gives it a nice sporty appeal. It's a flat look. To go along with this belt line, with the hood open, you'll see this gap. But when the hood's closed, it's so unnoticeable. It's a very nice touch. And of course, you'll see the panoramic roof up here. And I know you're dying to see the inside. So let me show you the inside. Oh yeah. Very, very nice. And what I'm going to do now is start it up and show you some of the key features, some of the things that I like. Because I actually owned a Q5, a 2015 Q5 with a sport package. And I kind of miss it. You'll see here too. We have heated seats in the rear now, which is a nice feature to have. Obviously, a lot of competitors are doing that. Audi is finally offering that on the new Q5. So let's start it up. Let's take it around the block. Let's see what it's like. Now, obviously, most Audis have keyless ignition and keyless entry. So basically, as long as the key is with me in the car, I start the car like this. So far, so good, right? Well, let me show you a few features around here real quick. Alrighty, so you'll see I have a large screen here. It's actually fixed, just like it was in the other Q5, except now it actually is more in your line of sight, but not blocking your peripheral vision over the hood, which is nice to have. And then, of course, here we have virtual cockpit. So if I press view, I get a change in the instrument cluster. And of course, I have tabbed data here that I can go through. And if I wanted to do something like see the map here in full screen view, I just press view, and now the map is full screen. Of course, the map is also here as well. So this touchpad is actually sort of like the Apple mouse pad on their Pro. It actually has a artificial click. So it's a solid piece that clicks when you press in a certain area. So listen. You hear that? So that's basically what Apple does on their MacBook Pro. And why not incorporate the latest of the tech inside a vehicle? It makes the most sense, right? I mean, who wouldn't want all the latest and greatest in the newest of something? And of course, here we have an updated air conditioning system. It actually is receptive to your touch, so you actually can just put your finger on it lightly and it will show you the options. And of course, you can scroll through by pressing up or down. So it does work in two directions. And then what mode you leave it on is the mode it's in. And of course, I can just press auto, it takes care of itself, and I can adjust the temperature for the driver and the passenger. We have recirc, and of course we have heated seats as well. I'm going to turn the fan down so you can hear me better. In this model I have drive select. Drive select also affects how Quattro works. In this car we have Quattro Ultra, which is a new style of Quattro, and I'm going to explain that. We have auto stop start, which means that when the vehicle is at a complete stop, the engine will shut off, and then when you take your foot off the brake, it starts up again, saves fuel. And we have hill descent control, and this basically turns the screen on or off. It doesn't make the screen move, because the screen doesn't move, the screen is fixed. Now, of course, we still have our great controls for the garage door opener, we have our lighting, but now we have a system that will call for help. So this help system is now integrated in the Q5, which is handy. And of course, we always have a gigantic sunshade. Lets in a lot of the hot Texas sun, but it's the day before Easter. It's actually quite pleasant outside. I can actually have the sunroof open, okay? In addition to the sunroof being open, I can have the shade closed. So I can let in fresh air, for instance, but without letting in the direct sunlight. So it diffuses the light sort of like I'm on a patio. It's nice to have. It makes it for another option, another way to configure the car. Something I like about all the newer cars these days is that they're very compatible to the mood or the mode you want to be in. They do a very good job suiting the lifestyle and suiting the needs of everybody in the vehicle. This is no exception. And obviously in here we have a tan interior. Very roomy looking. Beyond the roomy look of the tan interior, I want to talk about how this thing feels. This steering wheel is so thick, so massive, it feels like it's almost as thick as my wrist in certain areas. It's that thick, and it's awesome. And it has little paddles on here to change the gears, which is great to have. I love paddles on a dual clutch automatic. And of course, I have a heated steering wheel button and controls for the center screen. So let's go for a drive, see what this is like. I'm going to explain how this Quattro Ultra works. I'm going to move this camera too. What I'm going to do is open the screen, shut the sunroof. Okay, so this is a new style gear selector. It's now in the A4 and it's actually in the R8. Now it's in the Q5 and the Q7. So I just put my foot on the brake and pull back while pushing the side button. I'm in drive. You won't feel it engage in drive because it's actually still in neutral because it's a dual clutch. The clutch hasn't released to first gear yet. What you do is you take your foot off the brake and it's in first gear. So it's like a manual, but it does all the work for you. It's fantastic. And now I'm in auto mode with drive select, and that means that it's going to automatically choose. So I'm going to be quiet for a second and you can kind of hear, or try and hear at least, what this engine sounds like. So as you see, it's a very smooth, very capable family hauler. And the reason for that is because with this Quattro system, what it now does is it sends power to all wheels, but it also sends power to the front wheels only. And the way it does that is if you're driving around town, it's mainly going to be using Quattro when it needs it. But when you're on the freeway or you're in a straight line and you're just cruising, it's going to revert to the front wheel drive. And the way it does that is it automatically disconnects from the rear drive system. So it's going to decouple and all the power will go to the front wheels. And because of that, you'd think that maybe there's going to be some torque steer, it's going to be epic as far as, hard to control, but no. In a straight line, front wheel drive on the Q5 is unnoticeable between front and Quattro. The only time you will notice it is when it actually saves your butt in snow or rain, slick roads, things like that. Essentially, what this Quattro system does is it adds cutting edge technology, which is decision making that the car is doing to determine in advance if you need front wheel drive or all wheel drive. If you turn on your windshield wipers, it knows it's raining. It's not going to take you out of all-wheel drive mode. It's going to stay in all-wheel drive when your windshield wipers are on. It's automatically adjusting the way it's behaving based on what you need. So it's almost trying to predict what's going on, and it uses those calculations to determine what to do next. So for instance, if I'm going to accelerate very hard, it's going to use Quattro. If I'm going to just coast, it's going to use front wheel drive. What we're going to do now is go on the freeway. Now this thing is very smooth over this rough road. Obviously it's an SUV and it should be. And it is. I like that a lot. The Q5 that I had was a very stable, very solid vehicle. It was, let me put this in dynamic mode actually. So I just press this button here, drive select, and I can go up to off-road, comfort, or go down to dynamic and individual. And what dynamic does is puts in more of a sport mode. It engages sport mode in the automatic transmission, and it tightens up the steering. And on some models that are equipped with the adaptive suspension, it'll actually tighten up the suspension as well. That's on the Prestige models. This is a Premium Plus. Prestige is a very hard to find trim line. Most of those are ordered in advance. So if you're looking for a Prestige Q5, order one. I do love the interior in here while I'm waiting for Austin traffic to go by me. I like how this is not like the A4. I did not like the A4's horizontal vent that goes all the way across. They got rid of that. They're not using it in the Q5. I think that's a very good thing. Okay, so let's just get on the freeway. So the steering is very responsive, I'll tell you that right now. On the freeway, coming out of the car I was just driving, which is an Infiniti Q70S, much more heavier than this, and obviously it has a V8, and this is half the amount of cylinders, so it's hard for me to adjust going from car to car like that. But coming in here, trying to figure out what it reminds me of in my previous Q5, what I can tell you is that the steering feels a lot sharper from the last generation Q5, and the ride feels almost the same, but this car feels a little bit bigger. I have a storage bin here that actually fits my cell phone. This is an HTC, and it actually slides back to reveal cup holders. Now to take the transmission out of sport mode, I can just pull back on the gear shift, and I can always go back into sport mode by pulling back on it. And that's while I'm still in dynamic. So I still have the sharper steering, the heavier steering, the firmer suspension if this was a Prestige, but at the same time I can go back down to individual, off-road, comfort, auto. If I stay in comfort, right, it will use the Ultra system. If I'm in dynamic, it actually won't use the decoupling. One thing about electric steering that I like is that it returns to center. So even if your wheel's turned, if you see here, I turn the wheel, and as soon as I go forward, it's going to try and center it out. It's not going to jerk it and make it hard to drive without staying on the wheel. But what it basically does is, as a part of its ability to stay efficient, is that it will use the electric steering to stay straight. That's a part of what electric steering does. It'll actually force itself to stay straight. Anyway, let's check out more of the interior. I have two USB ports and an aux port for those of you who don't have a cell phone, and I still have a deep bin in here. Of course, the armrest is also adjustable for height. and depth. Of course, the problem there is if you're going to use these cup holders, you necessarily wouldn't always be able to use your armrest at full length. But unless you've got like a venti latte at Starbucks, which, you know, that's up to you. If you just had a regular water bottle, I think you'd be able to clear it. It looks like plenty of room to clear it. Also, there's a storage space up here, probably for something other than what you think. And of course, I could always put my phone here as well. And that's nice to have. It's something that I liked in my old Q5, and they still kept it in this Q5, which is a good thing. And of course, we have this new gear selector, which takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you realize when you start the vehicle and want to go in reverse, you just push it forward. And then when you want to go and drive, you pull it back. And when you're going into parking spaces and going back and forth, you just know that you have 2 detents, not just 1. You'll get used to it. And of course, electric parking brake. And then this pad is very receptive, and it has shortcuts on either side to correspond with what's going on the screen here. And I just press that, and I'm able to get to different parts of the menu, and it shows me things like traffic and whatnot. I'm sure you'd like me to give you a demo, but I don't really like demoing tech that much, and if you really wanted to see it, what you should do is go to the showroom and check it out. If you have any questions, go to the showroom and check it out. Don't watch YouTube videos about this stuff, because it's boring to watch tech reviews like this. I mean, I'll give you my honest opinion. Audi still makes the best GPS systems, the best overlays. They use Google Earth, they use Ingrix, which is getting their data from Waze, and they're overlaying that traffic data onto the map. It's not going to show you where the cops are hiding, but it will still show you where all the traffic is. And that's really the benefit. If you're going to commute in a vehicle, you want to know where the problems are before you even have to deal with it. Again, I do like how this extends all the way across the dash, and it's not interrupted by another air vent. And of course, we have Bang and Olufsen speakers in here, so you can see that by the designation there on the door. And here's the stop start button as well. Another new feature here is this little storage bin, which isn't that deep, but it will hold a nice pair of sunglasses. You'll need it because it doesn't exist up here. And then moving into the back, it's the same Q5 setup we've had before. It's basically one-handed. My seat's a little too far back for us today, but you'll see it's one-handed to pull the seat down, and you pull the handle, and it's one handle and one push to put it back up. And of course, this button here gives us 40, 20, 40. So in case you have something very long and you still have 2 passengers, you can use it. And in here we have cup holders. If you have a small family and you need an SUV, this is where I would start. And of course we have gas struts, but look at how the hood opens. The hood comes over and opens up. So what that does is it gives you a larger clearance. Not that you're going to work on this vehicle because, well, it's just an oil change. This is actually a tube where you can actually do a topside oil change, and that's the oil filter. So if you're worried about longevity of this vehicle, you can understand that this car is made for dealers to do really quick maintenance on them, real quick oil changes, and part of that is with Audi Care. So when you have the prepaid maintenance package, it's all taken care of. But what happens after that expires? What happens if you're a second owner or a third owner? Well, that's where the oil goes in. This is where the oil comes out. You don't even have to lift it to change the oil filter. So those things add to the value of the vehicle because it's so much easier to work on. I don't have to get under it, I don't have to jack it up. I just open the hood and the work's done. You'll also see how low the engine is compared to the bulkhead. What that means is there's a lower center of gravity. If you look in here, you actually see control arms, and it's not the air suspension, which is not going to be available in the US. The air suspension may be available in this Q5, but we'll see it when it comes here. Well, that's it, the 2018 Audi Q5. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. I've got a lot more videos coming on the way. A lot of new Audis actually, because they have several coming to the US in the next several months. So keep an eye out for more videos if you're an Audi fan, And if you're an SUV fan, thanks for watching. Some of the ways that you defeat the new Quattro system from decoupling and going front-wheel drive only is you stay in dynamic mode, you use your headlight wash, you stay in dynamic mode, or you use your windshield wipers. The way you stay in Quattro is to stay in dynamic mode. Also, if you're using your headlight